When it comes to going back to school, never forget the 3 R's: reading, writing, and run for your life. This is your look at the new NECA Toys Gremlins Ultimate Back to School Gremlin. A gadget salesman is looking for a special gift for his son and finds one at a store in Chinatown. The shopkeeper is reluctant to part with the mogwai, but sells it to him with the warning to never expose it to bright light, water, or feed it after midnight. All of this happens, and the result is a gang of gremlins that decide to tear up the town on Christmas Eve. The special edition figure is an homage to the imaginative newspaper ad campaign used to promote the film during its successful and extended 1984 theatrical run. I suppose there's a bit of an irony to the fact that we're having a look at a back-to-school gremlin, which back-to-school was a bit of a talking point, specifically this year with the pandemic that's stretching across the globe. Also, I can't help but notice, and I'm sure I'm not obviously the only person that's mentioned this over the years, the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. Is any of that R's? Well, reading obviously is. Writing and arithmetic, not so much. Not so much. Anyways, back to school gremlin stands exactly 7 inches in height. Not so much. No, not to the point I had made before. For centimeters, though, it stands almost 17.9 centimeters to be exact. Yeah, I always wondered that as a kid, too. I wanted to put up my hand and say, well, teacher, it's not 3 R's, it's an R, a W, and an A. But I digress. Let's do a couple of size comparisons while we're doing some size comparisons. I'd like to thank the folks over at NECA Toys who provide the sample of back-to-school gremlin that we're having a look at in this review. If you're in the market picking this one up for yourself, you should be able to find it in various retail stores. Just brought in a gremlin. I can pose the question to all you guys out there. Which gremlin do you think this is? Oh, somebody just said Ultimate Gremlin. No, it actually wasn't. It was Ultimate Gamer Gremlin. I mean, that was a trick question. They all sort of look the same. But I brought in just a random gremlin, simply so you can see the difference between the two. And we'll do some more closer inspections of the two figures in a second, just so you guys can see a closer look at what they look like and how there's some changes and some other changes, not so much. But they are roughly the exact same figure, other than the fact that Back to School Gremlin's been dressed rather nice. Sharp, I might add. I don't know if gremlins have that sound look for fashion. But whatever he's doing, though, he's pulling off a pretty good look. And also, we can bring in, much smaller, unfortunately, is little tiny Ultimate Gizmo. Gizmo doesn't go to school, but he does get smarts from TV. He learned a lot from watching TV. But kind of give you an idea, though, of how the figures stack up. The middle back-to-school gremlin with a regular released Ultimate Gremlin, Gamer Gremlin, and then Ultimate Gizmo on the other side of him. Let's have a look at the accessories that come included with the Ultimate Back-to-School Gremlin. I want to start with this one first, because I think this is fun. Every kid, I'm sure, at least in the 80s, would have gone to school with some sort of decorative-looking lunchbox. I seem to recall when I was younger and starting maybe grade school, probably was kindergarten, grade 1, I believe I may have had a Smurfs lunchbox. Followed after that, it was the Get Along Gang. Does anybody remember the Get Along Gang? Probably nobody. And of course, right after that, it was the Ghostbusters. So I thought I sort of was moving up on the cool factor. I probably wouldn't have been walking around with a Get Along Gang lunch tin or lunch box. It would have been the plastic variety. But I do like this one quite a bit. On the one side, a shocked Gizmo. I like that. And then on the other side, not so shocked. It looks like that's Stripe. One interesting thing about it, though, is on these sides, as you can see right there, the very familiar logo of Amblin Entertainment, a 1981 production company, of course, founded by director and producer Steven Spielberg and Frank Marshall and Kathleen Kennedy. So it's really cool, the fact that they put that on both sides. In case you are curious, it does open. You just want to be very careful when doing so. There is a little latch on the inside, and I find if you take your finger, see there's a little lip right there. Just put your finger on there, and you can pop that off. Don't do it too quickly. And if it does have resistance, stop immediately and maybe just rethink your options. But it does open up. It would have been fun if inside was a little matching thermos, you know, with a little pop-up straw. That seemed to be a thing that was big back in the day. But there's nothing in there. Got to think that he wouldn't be making his own lunch. He probably would be stealing something from grocery stores. So it probably would be like Lunchables inside. And I think any kid that had Lunchables in the 80s was like the coolest kid around. I usually just had deli ham sandwiches with lots of excessive mayo on top of it, or Miracle Whip. So I do like the fact that that does open and close. That's a nice, certainly a nice touch. This doesn't move, so you may not want to force that. It doesn't move back and forth like a traditional lunchbox would, but a very nicely detailed lunchbox, which you can actually take and hook onto the fingers. I find it actually works better on this side with this specific hand, just because the way that the fingers are set up on this side, it just really, it causes misalignment. You can't quite line the two fingers up. The more logical route, I would say, is putting it on this side, and the Gremlin can, of course, just sort of carry that around to school. So that's a nice touch. I like the fact that he does come included with that. Put that to the side. Let's maybe have a look at his textbooks next. He comes with 2 textbooks, one being math, the other one being American history. They are joined together, so you won't be able to separate these. The idea really is you're supposed to put this sort of under the Gremlin's arm, imagining he would carry this to school. Would a Gremlin be that concerned about getting an education? Well, I guess he is, based on the way he's dressed. The fact that he tucks a shirt in says to me that this Gremlin wants to get away from, the rest of the group that are telling him, no, you don't need to go to school. Just hang out with us outside the convenience store. We'll sort of lean against phone booths and sort of just throw garbage on the ground. But this Gremlin says no. This Gremlin wants to make something of his life. Maybe get into the trades. Why not? Become a welder. Become a mechanic. There's lots of trades are a struggling thing nowadays. Nobody gets really into the trades like they used to. But I do like the fact that they give you books, even to the fact that they actually did sculpt the inner pages there, if you guys can see. Yes, there is a little bit of blue. I have to draw your attention to that just on the side, but other than that, very nice little representations of books, and like the fact that they did label them on both sides, so you knew exactly what courses the Gremlin was studying. Something, of course, to put with the Gremlin is a little bus stop sign. This is all done in plastic with the printed bus stop on the front there, riveted on both sides and painted nicely in silver. You can see that they've gone the full extra mile. You can even actually see there's like little nuts screwed onto the back there to make sure the sign isn't going to fall off. You can see the base has been done very nicely in a silver paint, the same silver that makes appearances up here. But again, I just want to draw your attention, not that anybody really cares, but the fact that they would actually sculpt little tiny nuts right there. And there's washers on there too. How about that? Fine work, fine work. So he does come with a little stop sign. Not so little. I mean, it's about half his height. The Gremlin also comes included with a catcher's mitt and also comes included with a ball. The ball is more something that just sort of fits into his hand. The glove, not so much. The glove is actually just molded plastic. Yes, it would have been fun if this was something that could have been made out of a material that you could have opened up and actually fit onto the Gremlin's hand. Instead, the idea is, again, as the picture would dictate, he sort of has both things sandwiched under his arm. Let me just show you. Let me just go that extra mile. Just sort of bring the arm up very carefully, bend the arm like so, and then just do your best to finagle. Am I using that word again? I haven't brought that one out in a long time. Finagle. You sort of finagle the things underneath that, and he sort of can hold both in place. And there's still more than, well, it's just one hand available, but it's more than enough to, of course, have him carrying around the lunch tin with him. And that's probably going to be the way that I'm going to display the Gremlin. As for the ball, if you wanted to, you could take the ball and sort of wedge it in between his fingers here, just like that. And it's more than enough. You can do the blizzard test. Somebody had asked me what the blizzard test was. If you ever go to Dairy Queen, I don't know if Dairy Queen is everywhere, they make something called a blizzard. It's a delicious treat mixed with soft serve and a topping of your choice. You can add like cookies, you can add peanut butter cups, you can add whatever you want. And they blend it again. And the idea back in the 80s, and still do it to this day, is they want to show you how thick it is. They'll tilt it upside down. Back in the 80s, mind you, they would have done it over top of some kid's head. And I'm sure it's sooner or later. Johnny, who was working behind the desk, probably didn't stir that up well enough, and it probably just dumped all over the poor child's head. The child left kicking and screaming, and the parents were disappointed. They probably don't do that as much. I think nowadays they just sort of tilt it upside down and they just go like this. I think they actually even just go like this. I don't know, it's more information that you really need to know. But the blizzard test essentially is that. I'm just tipping it upside down to show you that the catcher's ball or the baseball isn't going to be going anywhere. So that's also a nice touch. And last but certainly not least, for its accessories, it comes also with one additional hand. Now, if you don't like this particular hand, I mean, I'm not partial to the hand. I mean, I don't have any real attachment to it. But again, you can swap to this hand here as well. We'll just put the figure down for 1 second to make sure his feet are completely firmly planted. You can also take the baseball and you can fit it into this hand as well. Now, I already showed you the blizzard test. I'm sure I could probably show you on this one here as well. It's not going to be going anywhere. I guess this one is a little bit more best suited for holding the baseball rather than the other one. But as you hopefully saw with these extensive reviews, is that you can do it with actually both hands. I mean, this one I guess is a little bit more shaped to conform and comfort the ball just a little bit better. But, you know, again, you can do that with the existing hand that comes included with the figure as well. So let's get a closer look now at the back-to-school Gremlin. Not too much does change, admittingly. I mean, yes, they did dress this one up. I'm really happy with also the results of what they did when it came to dressing this Gremlin. These little, tiny, adorable jeans, I think, is the price of admission for this Gremlin. The idea that he's sporting jeans so long, the fact that he actually has to roll up the bottom cuffs, is just such a cute touch on NECA's part. I just want to snuggle and cuddle with this guy, simply just because he's got jeans and a little tiny belt as well. What size would this be? What child's age appropriately would fit a Gremlin? I guess, yes, the belt is a little tight. So much tight as well, the pants, that as you can see, the bottom of the Gremlin's tail, if you want to consider that a tail, the bottom of the Gremlin, we'll just call it that, is sticking out. It sort of looks like the spider head that's sticking out from the back of pants. That's interesting and very disturbing as well. He does have, like I said, the tucked-in shirt, which is a nice touch. Nice striped shirts with alternating colors of blue and white being the main color. And the sleeves aren't the same color as the stripes on the front. But again, that matches the coloring of the advert as well. Now, of course, you did want to see the face, and for that, we, of course, can bring in one of the Gremlins. I just chose Ultimate Gamer Gremlin. I mean, I have enough of these. Probably say I want to have like 10 or so Gremlins now in my collection. But not too much really does change. Let's just get the full effect going. We'll open up the mouth and show you this, the same face side to side. I would say, if anything, it does seem like the back-to-school variety Gremlin seems a little bit darker on the paint than, say, the Gamer Gremlin, which I don't know if you can actually see that or not, but it definitely seems to me, at least, like the face is a little bit darker. Specifically, this area right here seems a little bit darker on the Gremlin. I don't know if you can see that or not, especially the area around his nose. Now, I don't know if it's just the fact it's the same color, and maybe when it came to the Gamer Gremlin, they just added a little bit lighter coloring of that on top. I don't know, but it definitely does seem like there is a difference of color. The ears are exactly the same. If you were to lift the shirt, which I really don't want to, I don't want to pull that from the pants. I'm never going to be able to tuck that back in place. I have enough problems as it is to tuck my own shirt in, let alone a little tiny Gremlin. But you would have to believe that there's the exact same body underneath all of this that would be on any one of the Gremlins. Just again, like looking at this one here, the Ultimate Gamer. The arms are definitely the same. The stripes don't seem too different from one another. And even like the hands also seem like they're exact same reuses from one to the other. Even like the same shape of hand on both sides. Doesn't seem to change at all between the two Gremlins. The interesting thing also about this particular one is it does have already an attached hat. The hat does somewhat spin. I don't know if you can actually see it inside or not, but there's a little tiny blue peg that looks like it's pegged to the top of his head. I thought in the back of my mind, I wonder if I could actually remove the hat. And then if maybe there was just a peg hole on, oh, you can almost see it there. See the light showing through, and then all of a sudden it stops right here. Yeah, that's the peg right there that's rooted into the top of the Gremlin's head. Now again, I thought I could probably pull this off, and I'm now starting to second guess myself, thinking that if I did that, I may run the risk of breaking that peg and never being able to add the hat again to the Gremlin's head. Now again, I have enough of these Gremlins that I don't feel curiosity will get the better of me, and I'll eventually just rip this off and regret it later. But it does seem, like I said, it looks like it's pegged right in there, and it's rooted into the top of his head. Yes, it does add a little bit of swivel. You can move that back and forth, but I really don't think I want to remove that for the risk that I could potentially break it right off. Looking at the back to school Gremlins articulation, I've actually had fun doing this particular video. I always love looking at Gremlins. The ears do swivel back and forth. Not even sure if you can see it or not. There's a hinge joint right there. So hidden, in fact. It blends well to the rest, the little band of black that they've got along the top of the ear. But this does also allow the ears to hinge back and forth. Some variety of success. This one works a little bit better than on the other side. It's, like I said, it still moves up and down. I kind of like the idea with this particular Gremlin, for some strange reason, of having the ears slightly lower down. I don't know why I want to do that, but it just felt right. The mouth does, of course, open and close. There's a nice interior shot of the mouth. You can see all the nice coloring that they added, the warm tones of both the orange and the red. Very nicely colored, but nothing is different from like the regular work that NECA puts into these pieces. But the mouth does open and close. You can rotate the head all the way around. Let's maybe not go ahead and make the noise while we're doing that. Head moves up, head moves down. He actually does have a ball joint right there, and then he does have a secondary ball joint right there. So he's got two working. Despite the fact that he is wearing a shirt, you can still quite comfortably move the arms out, and you can also hinge the elbows. You can bring the arms forward, you can bring the arms back, and there's not enough of it that wraps around the joints. So with most figures, I usually say you got to be careful when it comes to, ooh, that looks uncomfortable. Usually you got to be careful when it comes to something that has sleeves, because fabric tends to wrap around the joint and it gets excessively tight. I don't find that's the case here with the Gremlin. I can quite comfortably, just because he's got so much slack, I can quite comfortably move the arm forward. I can move the arm back. It almost kind of looks like he's ready to throw a ball, or maybe he's already thrown a baseball. He does have a bend at the elbow. Now I look like I'm getting into some real crazy looking poses, but he does have a bend at the elbow. You can rotate the forearm, and you can also rotate the hand all the way around. Let's bring that arm back around. He does have an upper torso ball joint. The legs, despite being encased inside denim, can move out. They can move forward, they can move back. He has a bend at the knee. He does also have a secondary bend, which I guess probably for this purpose. Let's just put the figure down here for 1 second. Where's he going? Bathroom break? No, actually, I'm just bringing in the gamer Gremlin, just so you guys can see. His foot just popped off. There we go. I just want to bring this one in because it would be a lot easier to demonstrate the articulation, because so much of it is underneath the denim. But essentially the Gremlin would have the knee bend, and then it would also have a hind leg, or the back. I guess that would be the back ankle area would also hinge back and forth. Then the foot also has articulation, which I guess I could have gone back to this one. You know what? We'll go back to this one. We'll go back to this one. The foot moves up and down. You can ankle pivot. And just in case you are curious, if you've ever had issues with your Gremlins falling over, make use of these peg holes. Make use. Display stands are always your best friends. And being that NECA does produce those clear stands, bring them in. You can, help stabilize these Gremlins when you have them on display. In fact, I just so happened, it's almost like I planned all this. I just so happen to have one of the NECA stands, just attach the foot in place. There we go. Stability. Stability can be your friend. Let's just get the foot on the other side. There we go. There we go. All right. All around a good-looking Gremlin. Let's bring in the bus stop sign. Even though, yes, technically this is pretty much the same Gremlin as every other Gremlin we've gotten released before. I'm personally fine for this because it's not really one localized character. You don't have just literally one Gremlin. Then I could probably maybe say, I don't know, maybe too many Gremlins, maybe too many. But the fact that there are so many Gremlins in the movie, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Gremlins, then yes, I'm fine and open to the idea that NECA releases more and more of these in different costumes, different designs, and different looks. This one, of course, plays to that original promotional artwork, going back to school and maybe watching Gremlins again. Why not? The two can go hand in hand. I like the fact that they are venturing into other avenues for the way that Gremlins were promoted. Of course, we are getting ourselves also the Santa Gremlin, or Christmas Gremlin. That's going to be coming out soon, I think, as well. Definitely going to be a lot of cool Gremlins on the horizon. And me being a big Gremlin fan myself, I welcome new additions, being released by the folks over at NECA Toys. Going back to school can definitely be a stressful time when you're young. I remember for me, grade 9 was the hardest. The idea of going to a brand new school, high school, the first grade of high school, kids that were going to be around me that were much bigger and older than me. And of course, there was always that looming dread they warned you about being hazed. Luckily, I never got hazed. I don't even know if such a thing exists anymore. Does hazing still happen in schools? I would like to think that we've moved on in a society right now, especially right now during these troubling times. You don't want to get too close to anybody, let alone haze them. You're more worried about keeping that social distancing in place. The irony of watching a video like this in several years from now is people are going to be like, what's this social distancing? Why is he using this turntable? Why doesn't he just use an electromagnetic force field to rotate his figures? I don't think that's going to exist a couple of years from now. Could you imagine, though, a gremlin going to school while all his friends are fine and content, the idea of just destroying shops and eating anything that they can find and mass multiplying? This one gremlin actually wants to better himself, go to school, get an education, join the softball team, and I'm all fine for that. Don't judge a person by the way that they look. Judge them by the person you see inside or know inside when you get to know these people. That being said, I would still probably keep this gremlin away from shop. Home ec would probably also be a bad idea. But softball, what's the worst that can happen with softball? He might be one heck of a good pitcher. Big thank you again to the folks over at NECA Toys that provide the sample here of the back-to-school gremlin. Yes, even though it is technically, I go back to the same point always, that it's the same gremlin underneath all of this. But this one at least has stuff going for it. Accessories we've never seen before. Costumes on a gremlin we've never seen before, and a firmly planted cap that doesn't seem that it wants to come off. And I'm not going to force it just in case it does break off. Lots of cool stuff going on with the back-to-school gremlin. If you are a fan of Gremlins, let me know in the comment section if you've managed to pick up this one for yourself, or what you think of the figure just based on this review. Yeah, putting them in shop is not a good idea. Anything around sharp objects, sharp bladed weapon, no, it's not bad. It's not a good idea. Not a good idea. Keep him also away from automotive as well. Like a mechanic, I think he's probably going to be doing more damage than good. Anyways, if you're a fan of the channel, liking perhaps the content you're seeing, and like the extra little dribble that I throw in there, outside of just talking about the figures, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, turn the bell notification on, and most definitely, of course, keep your peepers peeled to this channel Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sometimes I take a little bit of that icing sugar and I sprinkle in there a few videos over the weekend as well. So there's always stuff and new things coming to this channel. The key, though, is always keeping those peepers ever peeled. Not literally, of course. We only say it in a figurative sense. Always peeled to this channel for all the new videos that are coming your way. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.